Now your Bibles are open to Isaiah chapter number 38. And on the program yesterday, we had made it down through verse number 14. Like a crane or a swallow, so did I chatter. I did mourn as a dove. Mine eyes fail with looking upward. O Lord, I am oppressed. Undertake for me. Now, this is Hezekiah's lamentation concerning the matter of his imminent death. And of course, God's healing of the man Hezekiah and raising him up. We saw the prophecy that was given by the prophet Isaiah concerning that. We had the sign of the sundial and the sundial going backward rather than going forward. All of the miracles that were involved in that. And of course, what I'm reading is not recorded back in 2 Kings 20, where we find the main record of Hezekiah's sickness and healing. But this is recorded by Isaiah. Perhaps this is something that the King Hezekiah said to the prophet Isaiah, and then Isaiah conversely subsequently wrote it down and made it a record, a matter of the record of the Scriptures. There's much that you and I can learn. The cutting off of my days in verse number 10. I shall go to the gates of the grave. I am deprived of the residue of my life. All of those things happen to men when they die. I said, I shall not see the Lord, even the Lord, in the land of the living. As long as I'm alive, I can see the hand of God and the work of God in the land of the living. I can see the work of God here. But when I die, I will see the Lord in heaven. But I'll no longer be here on the earth and be able to observe and participate in the work of God here. Mine age is departed. I told someone the other day that the object is to keep having birthdays. The only alternative to dying young is getting old. And I very definitely want to get old. I certainly want to get to be an old man, because that beats the alternative, and that would be dying as a young man. When a man dies, that's the end of his days. That is the end of his life. His life is cut off. That's why we say that that man lived 75 years and that man over there lived 85 years, and not a day longer than the day of their death. Mine age is departed. I'm no longer marking time, and is removed from me as a shepherd's tent. Of course, we touched on all of this during the days of this week. After Hezekiah says, like a crane or a swallow, so did I chatter. I did mourn as a dove. Mine eyes fail with looking upward. O Lord, I am oppressed. Undertake for me. Then Hezekiah says, and here's where we pick up today. What shall I say? He hath both spoken unto me, and himself hath done it. I shall go softly all my years in the bitterness of my soul. O Lord, by these things men live, and in all these things is the life of my spirit. So wilt thou recover me and make me to live. Now I think what we have just read is valuable information and valuable Bible truth. What shall I say? Verse 15. He hath both spoken unto me, and himself hath done it. Now, the spoken unto me would be Isaiah's words to the prophet, to the king Hezekiah. Make your house ready, set your house in order, for ye shall die and not live. Surely he hath spoken to me. And the things that were spoken to Hezekiah by the prophet Isaiah were what brought about all the bitterness of soul and all the difficulty and the calamity that Hezekiah is now facing, all of the difficulty that Hezekiah is laboring under. He hath spoken unto me. And Hezekiah prayed and said, Lord, I've walked before you in truth, and I've walked before you in a perfect heart. I have done that which was right in thine eyes. And Hezekiah wept and pleaded for the Lord to have mercy upon him, and pleaded for the Lord to touch his body and to heal him. And miraculously, abundantly, God did precisely that. Hezekiah says, and himself hath done it. It was God that healed King Hezekiah from his illness. Now, these kind of matters should have an effect on your life and mine. Too many times we become so arrogant, we become self-sufficient, we become lifted up within ourselves. We have the idea that we have a tiger by the tail. We have the bull by the horns. We get the idea that we are in charge, that we have the situation well in hand and well underhand. But a life or death situation, or coming so close to the matter of death, like Hezekiah did in this passage, should have an humbling effect on men. The result of what Hezekiah went through, he says, I shall go softly all my years in the bitterness of my soul. Now, how am I to understand that as a born-again believer? In the bitterness of my soul. Nothing will bring us face to face with the frailty of life and the frailty of our humanity than a brush with death. You realize that you could have died as easily as you lived. In fact, it was more probable that you would have died, and it is a miracle. I no longer use the word luck. I'm not lucky. I'm blessed in the providence of God. My life has not been lucky. God has been good to me and has protected me and helped me over the course of my life. I no longer use that word luck. And when you have a brush with death and you come face to face with the grim reaper and you understand that your life could have been snuffed out and you could have slipped out into eternity so quickly, that has a way of knocking the pride and the arrogance, the haughtiness, the self-sufficiency, the braggardness, that has a way of knocking all of that out of the man. I shall go softly all my years in the bitterness of my soul. Now, why is this matter of the bitterness of my soul, why would that be brought up here? Those of us that are saved obviously have the joy of the Lord. And yet I do read in the Sermon on the Mount, now I remember that's under the law and the law of the kingdom, but the Bible from Genesis to Revelation is profitable. And though we don't take our doctrine from all parts of the Bible, as New Testament believers, we believe all the Bible is profitable. And the Lord said, blessed are they that mourn. And that is counterbalanced against what Solomon says in the book of Proverbs, these 6 things doth the Lord hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him. And the first one cataloged is a proud look. A proud look. So it is obvious to me that God hates pride. And it is obvious in the scriptures that God blesses the mourner. What is this matter of the bitterness of my soul that Hezekiah is making a reference to? And I think now hear my words, I think that what this involves is when a man comes to understand, to conceive of the weakness of his own flesh. He understands the inability of self. He recognizes the depravity of himself. He understands that there are fightings without and fears within. I was preaching today. I'm recording this sermon on a Sunday evening, and I was out preaching today in my meeting, and I pointed out in the morning and then in the 2 o'clock afternoon service, and I was preaching and pointed out that we always have an adversary. And in the passage where I was preaching, we saw the Assyrians threatening first. And then we came back and read the latter part of the chapter in the afternoon service, and we saw the Babylonians. And I commented to the congregation, I said, you and I need to understand that our battle and our conflict and our warfare is constant. Our warfare and conflict is real. And if we get the victory over the Assyrians, the Babylonians will show up the next day. And if you get the victory over the Babylonians, the Egyptians will show up. And if you get the victory over the Egyptians, the Jordanians will come. But there will always be the matter of a battle, the matter of difficulty, and the matter of a hardship. There's always going to be that matter. And I think that that is what Hezekiah is talking about in the matter of the bitterness of my soul. I don't think it's the fact that Hezekiah had a martyr complex, but rather that the man Hezekiah understood that in my flesh dwelleth no good thing. I think Hezekiah's understanding that in me is nothing good. And though the hand of God and the blessing of God is real today, and the blessing of God will be real every day, but that doesn't mean that you and I are not going to face difficulty. Sometimes we talk about the trials of life, and we say if it's not, it's first one thing, then another. Sometimes we say when it rains, it pours. And about the time you get the leak in the roof fixed, the plumbing will leak. And about the time you get the leak in the plumbing fixed, the sewer line will back up. And about the time you get the sewer line worked out and opened up, a window will be broken. About the time you get the glass fixed in the window, the refrigerator will go out. It's first one thing, then another. And you and I understand that in this life, we're never going to be on a downhill toboggan slide. A man, much like Hezekiah, could reach a pinnacle of his life and could have, say, you know, I'm on the mountaintop now and I've got life whipped. I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve. And then Isaiah walks in and says, set your house in order, for tomorrow you die. My grandfather commented about Dr. Bob Jones Sr., and he attended Dr. Bob Jones Sr.'s funeral. And he said, what a shame that after all of the decades of labor that this man invested, after all of his labor building the great Bob Jones University, and about the time that he could enjoy the fruit of his labor and enjoy the campus and enjoy his office and enjoy the home that he lived in, that the school built and owned, and could enjoy everything that all of those decades of labor had required to build, it was time to die. And he had to fold his hands in death and depart and leave all of that labor behind. When a man comes in close with his life and he understands the brevity of life and the scarcity of life and how easy it is to die, how easy it is for a man to lose his life, that would cause a man to put off his pride and arrogance. I shall go softly all my years in the bitterness of my soul. I think Hezekiah understood how fragile life is and how frail life is, and in the final analysis, how brief life is. O Lord, by these things men live, and in all these things is the life of my spirit. Now I'll have to pick up with that on the program tomorrow. My time is gone on the Right Spot Hour today. May the Lord richly bless you until our program tomorrow, and I certainly wish all of you a Merry Christmas.
Right Spot Hour at Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 296